Grab your pre-workout and turn up that volume. It is time for a new episode of the Powerlifter's Den with your host, Cam Smith. What's up, Powerlifter's Den family? Want to rep the podcast and look good while doing it? Check out my official merch store at plden.company.site. We've got tees, hoodies, beanies, hats, and more, and gear that'll keep you motivated in and out of the gym. Every purchase helps support me and the podcast and keeps the den growing strong. So whether you're hitting a heavy squat session or just lounging in style, we've got you covered. Head to plden.company.site and grab your merch today. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Powerlifter's Den. I'm your host, Cam Smith, and today I want to bring on Maurice Moody. He is a raw lifter from, I believe, Connecticut. You're from Connecticut, correct?
From Connecticut.
Yep. And kind of joined powerlifting only a few years ago, but came out strong and is up to a 2,000 total, looking to chase some bigger numbers. So why don't you introduce yourself?
How's everybody doing? I'm Maurice Moody from West Haven, Connecticut. I'm a power lifter. I consider myself going into the pro powerlifting stage portion of it. 308 weight class. Accomplished a couple of things in a short amount of time, and looking to continue to crush some goals.
Yeah, so I know that you started off with kind of bodybuilding and then kind of had a transition. And to me, that's something that I know coming from a bodybuilding background, not me personally, but anyone coming from a bodybuilding background has a good foundation, good muscle mass that kind of can propel them into a good powerlifting career. So for you, maybe tell us about going from bodybuilding into powerlifting and why that happened.
Okay. Well, originally I played football, right? And I started there, played football my whole life. Pop Warner, high school, a little bit of college, and then I did a little bit of semi-pro. I actually chased becoming a professional football player until about I was like 30, 31 years old when I realized that was probably behind me now.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, what else can I do, to be competitive and to get into some type of sport that like suits like what I can do good, right? So bodybuilding popped up. I knew nothing of powerlifting at this time, right? So bodybuilding popped up. I linked with a coach. So one thing about me, right? Like anything that like I say I want to do, right, that I take very, very seriously. Like anybody can tell you that knows me, especially my wife. Like when I lock in, right? So my mindset is, okay, bodybuilding. Let me look, see who's the best, see what's going on, see how you got to look, how long does it take you to get there, what are they doing? I'm on YouTube's, a little bit of Instagram, a little bit of Facebook at that time. But basically YouTube, watching any videos I can see, talking to any bodybuilders that I can talk to in person, and then obviously just picking the brains of my coach at that time, right? Because like my focus was, okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to rise to the top as quickly as I can, but as safe as I can at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So starting with bodybuilding, like obviously lifting weights was something I always loved doing, from Pop Warner days, you know what I mean? Just having a bench in the basement with the fellas, going down to the basements, you know what I mean, lifting weights. And then when we got into high school, pumping that iron as well. So that came natural, right? That was like the fun portion of bodybuilding, right? Great. You get to lift weights, get muscles, get strong, you know what I mean? And learn how to get your physique to look a certain way, right? So quickly what I learned about bodybuilding, it's not all about lifting weight.
Yeah.
Especially it's not about lifting heavy. It's about how you diet and eat properly, right? So that was my first hurdle in bodybuilding, which once again, once I set my mind to something, I'm able to accomplish it, right? So I'm like, okay, this is the food, eating the same thing every day. The positive that comes from that is you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, I got my macros in. I did everything I needed to do. I got all my meals in. I got all my proteins, carbs, everything you needed to do, right? Because you eat the same thing on a schedule every single day. The other positive that came from that experience is that it taught me discipline, right? It created like some self-control as well, right? So like the days that I wanted to binge out and have a cheat meal or have a snack, and the days that I was very, very disciplined when I didn't do that, it was really self-rewarding after, right?
Yeah.
Because like wow, I can high five myself. I actually got through the day. It's not that bad. So, you know, my regimen was chicken, rice, vegetables, and stuff like that, right? At that time, I did a little bit of red meat, like steak has always been my favorite thing to eat.
Hmm.
But at that time, I switched just to chicken and rice type setup. Did that for a couple of years. I got my body in great shape, right? So never had abs growing up, never understood why I didn't have abs, right? So I had to learn about how body fat works, right? Once again, that's about dieting, not how much you actually work your abs in the gym.
Yeah.
So me figuring that out, I unlocked the door I didn't think I would ever unlock ever in my life. Um, I actually started seeing abs come in, right?
Yeah.
Then the time period just takes off, right? It takes some time to get to that point, but I tell everybody, once you get over that hurdle where your body fat starts to drop to the point where your physique, you're veiny, muscular, your abs, I got side obliques, everything. This was like a crazy point in my life. I never thought I would see this until I would wake up the next day, you know, and I would take my pictures from my coach, and everything was there. It was insane. At that time, the lowest body fat that I got to was 4.8%.
Nice.
I was shredded, but I never made it to stage ready, right? I never actually got to do a bodybuilding show, and this is the reason why, right? So obviously I'm a tested lifter, right? And I'm an untested lifter. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I untested, and obviously doing bodybuilding, you're untested too, right?
Yeah.
So I knew a little bit of experience about taking gear, right? You don't mind if I talk about gear, right?
No, go for it.
So I had a little experience about taking it, had some guidance and stuff like that. It wasn't my cycles, it wasn't my stack, it wasn't I would per se, the product per se. It could have been, who knows? But it was my injection site and how I was injecting it that caused the issue for me, which ended my bodybuilding career and started my powerlifting career, right?
Yeah.
Um, Messed around and caught an infection in my right thigh. And this was actually 2 days before Christmas in 2020. And my leg swelled up. I'm thinking, okay, anybody that doesn't knows that you'll get your little normal lumps. You got to rub it out. That's what I'm thinking it's going to be. A couple days go, 1 day go by. It's getting a little worse. Christmas comes by. I can't even get out of bed. And then I let another day go by because I had a day off of work, the rest and stuff like that. And I couldn't stand. I couldn't get down the stairs. The pain was just too much, right? So I'm like, okay, let me go to the ER. Maybe they can give me an IV with some prescribed medication that can bring the swelling down, bring the pain down, and we can go about my life, right? Didn't do the doctor thing, only on checkups. So I didn't know what was going to happen next, right? So
Yeah.
now this is 2020, right? Where you get dropped off at the ER. Nobody can see you. Nobody can hang with you. None of that stuff, right? So my wife drops me off. She goes to the grocery store, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna let you know when I'm done. She drops me off. It's around like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. She's going to the store. Boom, 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 right? 8 o'clock rolls around. Nothing. They don't bring me to the back. 9 o'clock rolls around. Now they bring me to the back, and they're examining me and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh, okay, we want to do these scans, and if the way the doctor explained it to me is if it's infected, then we got to do a surgery. We're gonna insert, do like a little incision this big, small circle. His hands are smaller than mine. The circle was small, so I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. I'm in pain, so whatever you got to do, right? So he comes back, tells me it's not infected. I'm like, oh, great. So whatever you got to do, then I can go home. Now, mind you, these are hours that's going by.
Hmm.
It's around 11, 12 o'clock. And the doctors switch off. I get an older doctor. He comes in. He's like, listen, there was an infection. We got to do surgery right now. And I'm like, well, that's not what the other guy said, but to fast forward that, I didn't have the surgery right then and there because I had just ate some crackers. So they gave me the surgery about 8 o'clock the next day. So now, mind you, nobody tells me anything. I'm thinking I'm about to get this little incision this big, and I'm golden. Never had surgery. I'm thinking that, right? When I wake up, my incisions are this long
Goddamn.
on my thigh, and my legs spread open. So it's not like they sewed me back together or nothing. It's just slapped open.
Shit.
They took my bandages off. I don't do blood.
Yeah.
I see an open womb. I'm like freaking out, about to pass out. Right. The blood, the womb back was about to generate a blood clot, which I find out is bad.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you can lose your leg if the blood clot actually formed, and we couldn't stop it. All this stuff is like foreign to me, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are they talking about? So now they want to do a second surgery. Same day, they do a second surgery and give me another big incision on the same thigh. Luckily, I got some decent sized legs, right? So I got these 2 big incisions. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wow. And all I'm thinking is, damn, I'm never going to be able to step on stage like this, right? I'm not thinking recovery. I'm not thinking I'm in pain. I'm just thinking, yeah, I'm not going to be able to step on stage like this. Now, mind you, my diet has been spot on. So anybody that knows, when you go a couple of days without your diet,
Fall off. Yeah.
You fall off. You feel like crap. You don't know what you're doing. So fast forward, I get no stitches. I get no skin graft. I self-heal it. So after 2 months, it starts to close on its own. After 2 weeks of me and my wife taking care of me, I'm back in the gym. People think I'm crazy. I'm bleeding through my bandages, through my sweats. I look crazy. I'm at the edge.
Yeah.
People are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I still got to get after it.
Yeah, I totally get that mindset. I mean, anytime someone gets an injury, like if you're in the sport or just kind of that same competitive, like any football player like that, like we're back in it as soon as we can basically tolerate the pain.
It's insane. I can't stop it. But I like that. I like being that way, right? Because I know when it's go time, I know how to tap in and I can keep going, right? So if I can do it on my worst days, like literally my worst days, right? My good days is just going to be that much special to me every day that I'm there. So I end up self-healing. Took about 3 months overall. It closed up, so I got 2 scars on the legs. So that gave up bodybuilding. And the reason being, to circle back to the beginning, is because in my head, I'm like, listen, if I'm going to do it, I want to be the best at doing it. I don't want to just do it. What you got to put your body through to step on the stage. If there's no elevation level after me doing like a amateur show, right? Because what would I want to do is chase my pro card, and if I can't chase my pro card because of the way my leg is deformed, doesn't make no sense for me to do this, right? I'm not going to put that time and effort. Now I got to put this energy into something else. So what do I do? So now here comes Instagram. Like I said, I wasn't using Instagram like that. So I log on to Instagram. I'm looking at things. I see people talking about powerlifting. I'm like, whoa, what is powerlifting? Right? So I see like people like lifting and ready. I see people, and at this time, I didn't even know these things behind me were called singlets, right? Right? So I see people in this. I'm like, oh, okay. They're in a uniform. It looks like they're about to, do something, professional. So yeah. I'm like, okay, let me see what's going on. I get on YouTube. I start like, what is powerlifting? Looking it up. And I'm like, oh, wow, you can compete. So I always knew about the lifting. I just didn't know that there was a actual sport to this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I fell in love with it right then and there, right? I'm like, this is me all day. I was like, I don't have to diet. I can lift and be strong and get jacked. Oh, yeah. So I needed a coach. Well, my current coach right now, who's been my coach since day one, comes across my feed. Perfect timing, right?
Yep, exactly.
And his name's Andreas of the Strength is Strength. I'm in Strength. And it's been a great journey with him. You know, we started in 2021. We sat down, he interviewed me, right? Which I respect, right? Because like if I'm not a good fit for you and I don't feel like you're a good fit for me. But at that time I didn't really have no standards for my coach, like, right? I just wanted you to believe in me and tell me what I'm looking to do, we can do. Or if I'm not if I can't do what I'm looking to do, then you tell me this, but you gotta tell me why.
Yeah, and
Right. So I
I think with coaching like that, I think it's important that when you're bringing on someone new, that you're very transparent like that. Like I think that's a really good way to kind of build a relationship, and that's something we kind of dive into more. I think before we kind of go into that, as far as like the bodybuilding thing goes, I think one of the biggest things that a powerlifter can pull from like the bodybuilding world is the diet, because any powerlifter knows, especially anyone past like 242 knows that eating is like the hardest and most annoying part of powerlifting. So
yep.
when you can kind of learn to treat it as a job and kind of lock that in and have discipline with that, that's when you're going to see the most gains. And obviously with bodybuilding, it's kind of more necessarily for strength. It's more for basically getting your body fat down, but you can translate so much from that into the powerlifting world with performance eating, with shit ton of rice, shit ton of beef, like all the salt, a bunch of different things that you can learn, mostly the discipline of it.
100% true. You know, food is everything. So even so for me, like how I train now versus how I trained before, like when training as a bodybuilder, I used to train fasted, right? Because I go to the gym in the morning then and now, right? So I would train fasted and think that was okay because my body was used to it. I was okay. I can train, I can do weightlifting, I can do cardio right after and be fine. No problem. But when I started eating before lifting, that was a game changer.
Yeah.
That was the and listen, even if you're not hungry, get something, a liquid carb, liquid protein, whatever you can get in, right? Get not the liquid protein. I don't feel like for me that doesn't really do much for me,
Yeah,
right?
I think, yeah, for sure. I think, like, I mean, I don't necessarily have a good appetite, but I understand the importance of it, so I get it done. And even if you're just eating a fucking muffin or something before you squat, like, it's gonna make a difference. Like, you
Oh
feel
yeah,
so much better.
and you don't. So trial and error, right? You don't have to overeat, right? Because so for a I would say a little bit close to half my lifting career, like powerlifting career, when I started eating on Thursdays and Sundays, which are like my leg days, right? And I would go to the diner every morning, right? It was like a ritual. Like the waitress was great. She knew myself, my wife, when she see my truck pulled up, that she knew exactly what I was having. I didn't have to order; it was there ready for me. It was insane, right? But I thought that was great for me. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I'm stuffing my face. I got all this power and energy. When I slimmed it back a little bit, that was actually better for me. So I didn't have to overeat. I didn't eat anything. I didn't stop eating. I just trimmed what I was eating down, and it was like the perfect match.
Yeah. I found for me, my sweet spot, just before training sessions is usually like anywhere from like 30 to 50 grams of carbs, and that kind of puts me in that good energy level, but not so much where I'm gonna fucking throw up when I'm squatting.
Right, exactly. 'Cause those are moments. I tell you that. Especially I wear a mouthpiece, so definitely moments.
Yeah, so I guess, back into the powerlifting, you said, your first meet was October of 2021. Obviously, you came out swinging with a 500-pound bench. Maybe tell us about kind of signing up for that meet and kind of the first prep leading into that meet.
Okay, yeah. So start with the coach. I want to say it was June of 2021, right? It's like June 19th of 2021, right? Once again, don't know nothing. I'm just gonna shoot all goals. All right, coach like, hey, what's the goals? 500-pound bench. Like that's like you got. So I record everything, right? So I record it prior to, after, everything, right? So I go back and I watch my videos when I tried to do 500 pounds. It's so funny and entertaining to me. I'm like, why did I even try this? Like I didn't even deserve the right to go for that, right? I didn't earn it, right? Like it's crazy. From how I trained now to what I was doing was insane. So I knew somehow, some way I was going to bench 500 pounds, right? But I had to overcome the middle part, the 425, the
Yeah.
450, the 475, which I didn't touch. So I would always jump from every time from 405 to 505. Never touch the middle. Don't even know if I can lift in the middle. Right? I just assumed, oh, another plate, I got this. Never had it. Right? So I'm like, listen, I want to bench 500 pounds. He's like, that's doable. I was like, okay, bet. He was like, I'm gonna have to tweak you and show you some things, but that's doable. I said, okay, bet. That was like my main goal. And then everything else had to come up, right? So squat was terrible, like really, really bad. I didn't know how to squat at all. It was like, oh gosh. The videos before to now, like like that wasn't even, you could forget about that, right? So I tried flats, I tried hills at this time. Didn't understand why I was doing hills. It did never say, like, I didn't know that this was helping my because I had tight ankles, helping my ankles move forward so my knees could drive forward so I get my quads more activated. Didn't know this. Right? I'm just thinking I'm putting these hills on. I'm like, okay, it just made me taller. Now I got to move my rack height up, right? Flats didn't work because I had no ankle mobility. Didn't understand why all this was happening to me. Then I would like wibble down. So I'm like, okay, squats is going to be what squats are, right? So when we started training, we started training at 350 pounds on squat.
Yep.
I was like, it's going to be whatever it's going to be. Deadlift, I deadlift prior to meeting him 600 pounds once with the bloody leg, right? With straps. And that's only because my boy TJ, who's like my best friend, right? And he's my handler, right? This dude's great. But so he did it. He just did it. And you know, I can't let him show me up, right? So it took me everything out of me. I did it stiff leg deadlift too because I couldn't even bend the quad.
Yeah.
And so let's say I did 600, right? Whatever. So I'm like, okay, we got to build from there. Didn't understand how training blocks work. So I'm a type of person originally when I first started powerlifting, like I used to get out of pocket, right? But I didn't understand what the pocket was. You know, like he used to say it to me, and I love being a student of the game.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And learning and talking to different people because it changed how I train so much. So in my head, I'm like, okay, we're chasing 500. Okay, so let's try it today then. No, it doesn't work that way. Well, I didn't understand that. So, but we're building up. We're building up. I'm like, I'm feeling stronger. Let's try it right now. He's like, no, you want to save it for the meet. Didn't understand it. I was getting frustrated. But we were doing good. Things were moving. Things were doing good. But from day one, I said I wanted to bench 500, and my eventually goal, I want to total 2K, right?
Yeah.
And that's because what I seen at that time, like on Instagram, 2K was like the number everybody wanted to chase. So I'm like, wow, 2K must be something. So, and it just sounds cool as fuck. So I want to do that, right? I want to set that bar high. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I said I want to do that by like my second meet.
yeah. And then, so I guess you said, or at your fourth meet is when you hit the 2K. I think
Right.
that's something that basically every raw powerlifter pretty much over, I don't know, 198, I'd say, wants to hit that goal. Like, that's a lifetime goal for everybody. If they can do that in a lighter weight class, fucking A, that's crazy. But I think this is a good time we can kind of segue into talking about what it takes to get that 2K total. I think, obviously, one of the number one things is training hard, but not going out of pocket, like you're saying. Like, you got to trust the process, trust the training blocks. And I think, yeah, just tell us about what got you there.
So the original goal was to try to hit it by second meet, right? And I didn't even understand how to put the numbers together to even get there at that time. Once you realize the numbers you need, second meet wasn't in the realm.
Yeah.
So when third meet rolled around, third meet was definitely there. There was 2K in the tank all day, right? I knew it, he knew it, but we were at nationals. the judging was on point. I mean, it was on point because I did USPA through this whole time. So here's the thing, just to scale back one time, right? This is what built my confidence so much. So squat during prep, my first meet during prep, the depth is crap. During second meet, the depth is crap. I get to these meets and my mind and body is different. I squat so deep. The judge come to me and says, "Oh my gosh, that is a picture perfect squat. You need to teach these kids something." When she said this to me, oh, it changed everything. You can so it built my confidence on squat because I listen. If you ask my coach and you see our messages, I'm stressing depth all the time.
Yep.
When I'm training, I got somebody watching my depth all the time. You know, it's obviously as you get bigger, it gets harder. But by the second meet, I'm up. I moved. I'm by the third meet. Sorry about that. So I'm in the 308 class, right? I was originally in the 275 class. Didn't want to cut to 10 pounds. I didn't trust that, and I'm like, okay, I'll go to the 305 class. But I always been a light 30. I'm at 308. I always been a light 308. By the third meet, which is USPA Nationals, things tighten up. We had some friends and stuff like that competed too, and being in the 308, you compete last day. So I politicked with everybody, the judges, the refs, everybody, the competitors, coaches, like what's going on? What are y'all seeing? What are y'all looking for? You know what I mean? Just trying to get an idea of what I'm working with and how I got to, bring it in. Do I got to be conservative? Can I go off the hook a little bit? Or do I really got to be dialed in? And someone that I know that came with us, that's from my gym at that time, they bombed out. So I was like, oh, okay. Now that's in my head mentally, I'm like, I really gotta make sure. So 2K is still on the table. Like that's where my mind is. But my objective was win nationals, 2K next, right? But they were like kind of neck and neck. I hit a decent squat, like 680 something, or it's been 670 something. I don't know. But my bench, I had a 540 bench, right? Had a way more in the tank. The issue is on my second attempt was my 540, right? And for some reason, and I get this way, when I go to bench, when I'm overly confident on it, I forget to do what I needed to do. So this is my rookie stage, right? So I get it a little bit, boom, 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 we come. Then they hit me with the uneven lockout. I'm like, okay. I don't argue with nobody. It is what it is. I'm pissed. Yeah, that's what you need to do was piss me off. Strap that belt back on, going to take the third, smoke the third, right? So 540 was that day. Coming into deadlift. Now, bench, which I learned over my powerlifting career, is my separator for me.
Absolutely.
Right? My squat is decent, pretty good, but it's decent. It's no separator, there's no boom. It keeps me in the mix. Bench is what separates me. Then deadlift, me and deadlift is like, we're not friends at all. I've been dating powerlifting for this amount of years, and we still on level one trying to get to know each other, right?
Yeah,
So it's
I
like
mean,
either there
I,
or it's not.
yeah, I feel like deadlift is one of those lifts. Like, if you're a really good bencher, your deadlift usually takes a hit. It's kind of one of those things that is antagonistic, and I feel like, especially in gear, like you'll see so many big deadlifts. Obviously, the shirt helps and stuff, but when it comes to deadlift, like the suit's not doing that much, so it usually is like a people's crutch.
Yep, it's so. And now in this stage of my life, I want a big deadlift. You know what I mean? I want to be excited for the last lift of the day, right? So I'm like, okay, we're going to deadlifts, and so what we do is we're not just out there just lifting. Like we where are we at in the rankings right now? You know what I mean? Are we first, second, third? What do we need to do? So we're following. So we're in the mix. We're in the top three, right? We're in the top three, and we're moving and we're grooving. As they go, I go, and it's like, okay. It comes down to the last one. If I hit, I land in first. That's it for everybody else. Everybody else is gonna be second or third. Cool. So I hit, boom, easy too, easier than my second attempt, which was crazy. Um, I smoked at that time. It was 727 deadlift, so I smoked that. Um, so I'm in first place. The person who originally was in third, he went last on the deadlift and loaded it up to jump into second. So he ended up taking second. So that was, but that didn't give me my 2K, right?
Yep.
They gave me like 19 and some change. But like I said, I smoked the 727. I could have went 730 something, 740 something. Like I could have been at 2K. But do I risk 2K and miss and come in third?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's where we were. That's what we're playing with. So I'm like, okay, let's go for the win. You know what I mean? And then we go for 2K the next go round. So that's how that comes about for the fourth meet.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a interesting part of the sport is like in terms of I guess like at a national meet like that, going for the win kind of means something, but at a more local meet, it's more of your total. So it's kind of interesting to see like the different I guess strategies going into meet kind of based on the caliber of the meet. And like you said, if this was just some like local meet or something, you'd probably take that swing. But when a meet where first place actually means something like that, it's definitely smart in my opinion to go for that win.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So that's what happened on the fourth meet. 2K was like, so I don't shoot for the exact number. I overshoot the number, right? Um, so I'm like, we're gonna overshoot the number, and land on the number. So squat went well that day. I think I hit seven. So this was in sleeves. So I hit 715. Um, bench bench went great, right? Smoked 565. Then it came to deadlift. My second attempt, I smoked 744, right? So that put me at 2005 total. So boom, I already got my total.
Yep.
And I'm in, so no, I'm not in first place at this point. Now there's $1,000 check on the line too, right? So I'm not in first, but I got my 2K total, right? So like I'm pumped. I came what I like, I got what I came for. The check, that'd be great if I get that, you know. But then they were going by dots or wilts or whatever, but and I'm like, I'm a 308. I'm never gonna win that. You know what I mean? Like I'm like the smaller guys always gonna get that. So I'm like, if I do, I do great. If I don't, it is what it is. And third attempt deadlift comes around. The guy right before me, if he would have hit it and I missed, he would have won, right?
Hmm.
So he misses. So with him missing, I don't know if that. So ultimately, I load up 771. I get it above the knees. All I got to do is squeeze those glutes. Squeeze those glutes. And I just couldn't. And in my head, I thought I didn't even think I got it above the knee.
Yeah.
That's how it felt until I seen the video. I'm like, wow, I was right there. All I had to do was just pull back, and I didn't. That would have put me at 2055.
Hmm.
And so I end up missing. I don't know if because the guy missed before me. So I'm like, and it puts me in a comfort zone. Like I won if I miss or get it. But that's my fault, right? I got to get better.
Yeah. And as far as like kind of getting to that 2K, obviously, I think one of the biggest things is kind of the persistence of the training, but I think there's a lot of mental side to it as well. For you, what are some of the maybe mental battles or some of the mental things that you keep in mind to kind of get you to that point?
So a couple things, right? So the first overall is when you're trying to get to 2K, you got to, all right, we're trying to get to 2,000 pounds. How you slicing and dicing that, right? Because that's the ultimate, like figuring it out, right? So think about this, because honestly, I didn't start thinking about this until like a year and a half ago, like really breaking down the actual numbers based on the higher numbers I'm trying to get to. That's what put me in this mindset. And A person who could squat 750 and deadlift 750, think about those two numbers. That is incredible. That's insane. But that's only 1,500 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you got a 400-pound bench, which is what most people have, is that 400 range, right? So anything under 500 is going to put you under 2K. So it becomes mentally difficult. Now you got to figure this out. So the way I say, start with breaking it down, right? And obviously everybody has their stronger lift. Whatever your stronger lift is, you're going to have to let that lift carry you. Let it do what it do, right? You train it, but then you got to bring up the other lifts, right? All three lifts don't move at the same time, as everybody know.
Yep.
Right? You'll have two that move, one that lag, one that move, two that lag. You got to figure that portion of how your body is working and figure it out. So here's my thing, right? So when I wanted to get to 2K, right, my focus point wasn't bringing up my bench. My bench was going to elevate based on me bringing up other things, right? So my thing was deadlift, but me and deadlift didn't like each other. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We just didn't. We don't mesh well. You know, we date, but we don't like each other like that. Squat. See, there we go.
Yeah.
All right. Squat was something I didn't want to do at all. So now imagine what you got to do. In this instance, this is what made training great for me. I said, okay, I'm going to love squat like I love benching, right? And I told myself this every single day when I had to do leg day. I'm like, I'm going to love this. I'm going to love this, even though I didn't love it at first. Then magically it just changed where I love doing legs. I love squatting. Like, it's something about having that weight on your back and you go down and you come back up, especially on the lifts you didn't think you can do, or you hit some reps that you didn't think you had, or if it felt super, super light and you're like, what is going on today? That feeling is amazing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of that goes on the one of the mindsets I use is that embrace the suck. Like, kind of fake it till you make it. Like, pretend you like this shit. Like, pretend you like doing your accessories. Pretend you like using the SSB. Pretend you like doing all this fucking bullshit that sucks to do in the time, but pays off way more than just ripping squats and benches all day.
Oh yeah, like so this is the part that a lot of people miss out on, is because like when you go on Instagram and you're looking at your favorite powerlifter or the people that you like in powerlifting and stuff like that, nobody posts the accessories,
Yep.
right? Because one, obviously those videos don't get that many views, and people are chasing views and likes and comments. But honestly, for me, that those are the videos that I'm looking at, right? So when I was learning, and I'm still learning, I like YouTube because it gives me that person's daily whole workout. Oh snap! So they was doing this, like, so I follow Jesus Oliveira, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I watch his YouTube, right? And I'm like, okay. And sometimes he gets his accessory working and he explains to how that's correlating to what he's lifting. This man squats over 1,000 pounds. You think I'm not listening to what he's doing? And I'm like, okay, I ain't do this. Let me do this. Let me try. Let me tell my coach, hey, this is what Jesus is doing while I'm not doing this, right? Now, everything doesn't work for everyone, but trial and error is going to tell you if it works or not, right? And you got to give it time and trust the process, right? It's all about developing your body and your mind.
Yeah, and I think that's with accessories, it's one of the most important and overlooked parts of training. I think what kind of separates a good coach from just a fucking cookie cutter online bullshit is someone that can actually see your weak points and not diagnose, but basically give you the right exercises to kind of get over those plateaus or get over those weak points, and that's what's going to elevate your squat.
I'm gonna jump the bench real quick. Let me tell you why accessories is real important, right? I had a 600-pound bench in comp, right? Now, I've missed 600 pounds in comp too, 2 times. One just recently, right? But there's all reasoning behind it. For me, it wasn't actually strength, partially, but it's not like I didn't have the power for it. Obviously, I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I hit my first 600 pounds in comp, it wasn't the bench work that I was actually. The bench work plays a huge role. Don't get me wrong. It was the accessory work that was the game changers, right? Let me break it down. Um, Weighted dips. Okay, I didn't take weighted dips seriously at all, right? I slacked on him. I did them because he lined it up, but I still did it because you're not gonna give me something and I don't do it.
Hmm.
But I didn't push it with a thought of, wow, let me make this movement contribute to the body part that I'm going to need. You want to know who I looked at and went on their YouTube page and was like, oh, this was it?
Oh,
CT Fletcher,
ah,
right? First of all, CT Fletcher back in the day was huge.
yoked.
His body was insane. I'm like, who is this guy, right? Because I see him on the ground. He's older now and stuff like that. Still got huge biceps and stuff like that. So I'm like, let me go follow him on YouTube so I can see what he used to do back in the day. And when he was pushing those weighted dips, I'm like, okay, there we go. Once again, I'm seeing someone that already done the job and saying, okay, this is what I was missing or I'm not pushing seriously. When I started incorporating that seriously and stacking on that weight and my triceps started to get stronger and grow, oh yeah, bench was so much easier. That more tricep work, right? So tricep pull downs and stuff like that. But another hidden gem, face pulls. For me, face pulls build up my rear delt. Game changer on the bench for me. Um, so as far as accessory work, like making sure you actually dial in and you train accessories with that same intensity that you're going to train your SPDs, right? Is important. You know what I mean? Same as important as sleeping, recovering, not overtraining, right, and not overshooting. All that stuff goes into key when you're trying to get yourself to that next level, whatever the next level is for you, right? So you have to incorporate all of that, and that's where mental comes into play because you got to be disciplined. So I say that to say this, like, if you are serious about whatever you're doing and you want to really hit that goal, you can do it. You know what I mean? The only person that's stopping you from doing it is you. So you got to understand being disciplined is key, right? So if you're a person that hangs out, well, I got to train in the morning. How important is training in the morning to hanging out? You know what I mean? You got to cross compare, you know. And if you're a meat prep, if you drink, you may want to kill that too if you can, you know. But that's all based on how serious you want to take it. That's all.
Yeah, and to add on to the accessory work, I think one of the biggest changes that I made that's made a huge difference for me is training the accessories like a bodybuilder rather than an athlete. That's something that um, I've noticed I got a lot more out of. I made a lot more progress on the accessories, which obviously translate to your compound movements. And when I say like a bodybuilder rather than an athlete, instead of just kind of picking a weight and hammering out the reps as fast as you can, it's taking them nice and controlled, taking them nice and slow, really feeling the weight, making light weights harder. And I think that is something that, first of all, people need to do more accessories in general. I think that's just an underdeveloped part of the sport. But I think people that maybe think their accessories aren't doing anything, it's because they're training them like an athlete, not a bodybuilder.
100%. I couldn't agree 100% more than what you're saying. Like, and don't get it wrong. There's a time and a place that with the accessories, like where you really got to push them. You don't want the form to break down too much, but then if you want to push them like like a powerlifter or a power builder, you can. But that's not the idea because you're not growing the muscle at that point, right?
Yeah.
The Here's the test, right? And this is how I always test people because sometimes I can't get out of my own way when it comes to training because I like to push heavy and stuff like that, right? But me having a bodybuilding background and mindset, I know, okay, it's not all about that. This is what makes me feel better though. So even now, how I train right now, I'm training like a bodybuilder, right? My pump is so much better.
Yep.
So when I'm done, and even the next day after my body rests, I'm more jacked than I am if I'm pushing heavy. When I'm pushing heavy, I'm sore, and yeah, I may gain strength, but I look the same. But when I'm training like this, oh man, my physique is like bulging out and I'm looking tough. I'm like, oh yeah, this looks good on me.
Yeah, and I think the difference with the pump too, it's like if you're tired and sore versus like juiced up and like achy, I think that's the difference. Like
Mhm.
after a good arm workout, like if you're hitting it right, you're just gonna not be able to touch your shoulders. You're not gonna be able to fucking wipe your own ass later. But if you're just sore and your fucking joints hurt, then you're not doing it right, in my opinion.
100%. You know, and then like to circle back too on touching the 2K, like as we talked about, um, trust the progression, right? So overshooting is something that happens a lot. Understand and listen. I only speak from experience whenever I tell people advice, right? I'm not a coach, right? So I'll give you all the advice in the world. I'll train with you. You ask me questions. I love telling people, giving people, advice and trying to help them get better at whatever they're trying to do, right? Um, like I really enjoy that because I like to see everybody win, right? So trusting the progression in your training, right? So you want to progress like this, right? You want the momentum to continue to go like this into the meet. I say that to say this. If you are looking to compete and you are in prep, there is no need for you to PR unless the PR is lined up. Don't chase the PR. If the PR happens to fall in your lap because that whatever your coach gave you was in that range, or if he RPE'd you and it bumped you into that range, then great. That means it lined up. Remember, you got to still execute it, right? Don't miss the lift, right? Because the idea is you don't want to you want to execute and hit as many lifts as you possibly can properly in prep. So that way, when you get to the meet, it's just like another training day. It's not nothing special, right? So trust the progression. So as an example, week one, so everybody knows and you know this, right? Week one sucks,
Yeah.
right? Week one, you're like, whoa, how am I going to do this? What day he has me lined up for week three, or if you push to week four, like whatever that is, like there's no way based on how we. I'm telling you like this, as a 600-pound bencher, some week ones when I hit my first 500 pounds of that week, I'm like, I don't think I got any. I don't even think I got 10 more pounds in me. Like that took everything. And my wife would tell you, I come home and I'm like, I don't know what happened today, but that wasn't a good day. But then as you do it so much, you're like, oh, that's just part of the process. That's, oh, that happened 4 weeks ago when week one was again. Like it just happens. And as you progress up, okay, I'm in the week two. I got to hit this range.
Yeah.
It becomes easy. Now you're like, whoa, I just smoked what I did last week. How was that possible? It's the progression.
Yeah, and I think kind of going on top of that too, something that I've done, and you mentioned overshooting, is I did have that problem. I think honestly, anyone that's a go getter like that has that problem. I think kind of something I said before is so everyone needs a coach, and either the coach is going to be a gas pedal or a brake. And I
Mhm.
think the people that need the coach as a brake are the people that kind of get to that point, but only when the coach kind of can rein them in. I think something that I've done in my preps recently and just in general is kind of leaving a jump in the tank. If you're working up to it like a max effort day, like if you run conjugate or anything like that,
Mhm.
I always leave a jump in the tank, whether it's a 5 pound jump or a 20 pound jump. But not only does it kind of increase your confidence going into that day, but it's going to keep you from blowing your load and being way too fatigued going into the meet.
No, you're 100% right. You know what I mean? Blowing your load is something that nobody sees coming until you get to the meet and you're like, whoa, I did less in the meet than I did in my prep. Like, what happened? You blew your load in prep.
Yeah.
You know, RPEs for me is not my thing, right? And that's because I like to push, right? So it's hard for me to gauge. So you guys, me and Michael, this is the beauty about having the same coach for all this time, right? Now granted, it hasn't been super long, but think about it, I deal with him every single day.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of days stacked on of communication. I know his style, he knows my style. And if something's not right, then we know how to talk about it. You know what I mean? We hop on a phone call, we hop on a Google Meet real quick. We have a quick discussion of what's going on, or even via text, whatever. Um, And having the same coach, like he used to give me a couple of RPEs, and I'm like, dude. So this is where I used to overshoot a lot too, because like I'm like, oh no, let's say he lines me up with a 500-pound bench, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have 530 on the day. I'm doing that. Why would I not? You can post that on Instagram. Great, everybody high five. But now, what do I do next week and the week after that? So I never understood that. So and with the RPEs, to me, anything from a 7.5, 8, and sometimes 9 was the same thing. You know? And then if I had to grind one, then what are you talking about? Don't you grind at the gym?
Yeah.
So this is what changed for us. What helped my training and helped me get better is that he gave me ranges. So he says he'll give me my numbers, and my top set I have a range. If I'm not feeling that great, it's at this number, and if I'm feeling good, I should be closer to that number. And anywhere between the bottom number and the top number, it was good based on our progression that what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think that having a coach that can kind of adapt to what responds best to the athlete is what's going to get them to where they want to be. Because some people work better off percentages, some people work better off of ranges, some people RPE. Kind of having that ability to kind of learn your athlete in that sense is only going to help them progress to where they want. But I think we can kind of wrap things up here. So I'll ask you my final question. If you could give a new powerlifter or someone going into their first meet a word of advice, what would you say?
Have fun. Have fun. Hydrate. Stretch. Get a good night's sleep. As far as training wise, trust the process. Um, Set goals, but don't hold yourself to those goals. What you want to hold yourself to is showing up, hitting all your lifts, and walking away injury free. It's your first meet. That's your groundwork, right? So that's your foundation, right? First meet. Okay, this is my foundation total. You only want to go up from there, right? Set yourself up to go up. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Your first meet don't have to be RP9, RP10. You like progress into your second meet. Give yourself some room for your body to recover, because the next day, oh man, you're gonna feel like a train hit you. I was not ready for that. That was something new. So just prepare yourself. Make sure you get all your nutritions in. Make sure you eat, follow a proper diet, and have fun, man. Just enjoy it.
Yeah,
And
I think that's great advice. I think one of the best things I ever heard is if you do things right, your first meet's going to be your worst meet. So, well, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to come on. It was my
I
pleasure.
definitely appreciate it.
Sweet.
This was fun, man. This was definitely fun.
Awesome. Attention lifters, are you ready to crush your next training session? Then you need Reach pre-workout in your corner. With clean energy, laser sharp focus, and no crash, Reach is your ticket to smashing PRs and hitting new goals. And because you're a part of the Powerlifters Den community, you get an exclusive 10% off. Just use the code PLDEN at checkout. That's PLDEN for 10% off your order. Don't settle for average. Reach for greatness with Reach pre-workout. Your goals are waiting for you. Are you ready to grab them?